Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome and happy Monday, Southampton fans. It's the Daily Southampton from the Global Sports Podcast Network. We join you after yet another loss. It is what it is at this point. Yeah, we got drubbed pretty bad by Brighton. I'm pretty sure all of us kind of expected to go into that game with the risk that could be a bit of a rout. It turned out to be a bit of a rout, which So today, obviously, I'm joined by Greg. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm alright, mate. You said that we weren't going to be negative in today's episode, so I assumed you'd prepared a season review from 2015 or something.
No, I didn't say that wasn't going to be negative. What I said is that I'm going to try to be less absolutely defeated by being a Southampton fan by just diving into, I guess, embracing the fact that their season's done. Anyway, Oscar, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thankfully, I wasn't subjected to the pain of Saturday, so...
I think the problem that I have with Saturday's game is that, like, football is this little bit of supposed to be a part of our week that makes us happy. We talk about it on a daily basis on this podcast, and yet, you get into that 90 minutes. So I don't think that, and I know that we've had some bad losses this year. I don't think I've ever been 60 minutes into a game and just wanted the game to end. I genuinely wasn't I knew I needed to cover the rest of it just in case anything happened, because it'd be really bad if I spoke about us going 4-0 down and then we scored a goal. So I knew I needed to sit through the last 30 sort of minutes or so, but I don't think I've ever been as pained watching a Saints performance. So we'll start from the top because we'll try and actually review what happened. The lineups. So, what do you reckon, Oscar? Did you see the lineups? I know you didn't get a chance to watch the proper game in full, but obviously, was it another one of those moments where you went, "Huh," or not really?
I think so. I think we spoke about one of the main surprises, Aribo being at left centre half, saying it was definitely going to be a possibility. I find it quite difficult that he's supposedly trying to build his system on a tough, resilient Italian style defence, and then isn't playing defenders. I understand.
Not only not defenders, right? Our top goal scorer as well is worth pointing out.
Yeah.
Aim.
Yeah, exactly. And it baffles me, to be honest. And again, Onuachu, I think against someone like Brighton, you would have thought that's a good way of getting against a team that keeping the ball on the floor, possession-based football. Why wouldn't you just have that option to mix things up and have them there? It just seemed, I think maybe they might watch the podcast and just have a absolute clear determination not to play Onuachu and Archer together.
Yeah, I feel like at this point we must have offended some sort of deity somewhere, whether it's this realm or another. Some sort of footballing god just doesn't want them to play together. And I think the back and forth conversation me and Greg were having throughout the game was around how it's really strange that they don't ever try to play to Archer's strengths. There's never a ball in the middle. It's always trying to come from the sides, and then it never comes from the sides. Never comes from the sides. Nothing happens from there.
The one time they played a ball through the middle, he put it in the back of the net, and I know it got chalked off. But I'm just there screaming. I'm stood there screaming all game, just play it through the middle. He's made the move 100 times. He's in space. He's in between the defenders. He's ready for the ball. He's making the run. Play it through the middle. Stop passing out to the wings and then passing it back into the middle of the field. Please, just play the ball through the middle. It's baffling.
I think that the other problem you've got as well is that obviously we had Armil Balakochap on the bench, so we did have centre backs that could have played in the actual position. Obviously, it was probably a good thing we did, because if not, we would have ended up having to move Joe Aribo back into centre back position anyway.
Yeah, because we lost our only actual centre back.
Correct. So I guess I've got two questions. One, is this entirely Juric's fault, specifically this game? Because if there is nobody around what could he have done? What else? Where else could he have found defenders? Or should he have shifted things and maybe done like a four at the back? Because for supposedly building a resilient defense, which is one of the things that he said he was going to do, we now seem to be man marking, throwing everybody forward, and whenever we don't have the ball, the instant that any other team gets the ball, all they got to do is get past one guy who has absolutely zero confidence and then just run it at Ramsdale. And thank goodness it's running it at Ramsdale, because if it isn't Ramsdale in that goal, it would have been 9. So yeah,
I want to give a shout out to Dan, who has the season ticket directly in front of us, who had maybe the worst football take I've heard this week, where he said McCarthy would have saved just as many. Ramsdale's a waste of money. I don't think he was watching the same game as me, because it could have easily been 9.
I've heard a few people, and again, maybe mainly on X, so this says what it needs to say. But
it's hard to take people seriously.
But are saying that Ramsdale's really overrated and this, that, and the other, and look how many shots he's conceded, goals he's conceded, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, clearly he was at Arsenal and England's contender because he's a terrible goalkeeper.
Yeah, no one's suggesting that he's the best goalkeeper in the world by any stretch of the imagination. But to say that Alex McCarthy would have done as well is, I honestly haven't heard a worse take in football this week, and I have seen some.
So yeah, I'm guessing. So Aribo in defence, Archer starting with, I guess, the two biggest surprises. But I found that this, for me personally, as a game, was a bit of a turning point for my faith in Juric's ability, because I'm aware that Greg has done stuff about man marking. I'm aware that we've got long-term plans. I'm also quite glad that they were smart enough to put a break clause in if things don't work out. So I guess I'll start with you, Greg, for the defence, because I said I'd ask this question to Matt on Blue Sky. Is Juric's time up? Probably not this season, but it feels very much Ruben Selassie, trying to deal with a legacy squad and not doing anything else with it. Or
I think it's hard to fully put the blame on Juric for it. Yes, there are huge questions over his team lineups and his also ability to, the same as Russell Martin, to stick to a formation that clearly isn't working. But also, I don't think any manager picks an 11 from our entire squad that plays yesterday that doesn't at least get beat by Brighton, probably decisively. I don't hate the way it was lined up, if I'm honest. Aribo at centre-back is a bit bewildering, but we lined up in an effort to go at them and take the game to them. And as depressing as it is to say, this wasn't the worst we've played all season. We played all right, probably, and that's as closest to a positive I can get, and that in itself is pretty devastating for a 4-0 loss. But for most of the game, we sort of stuck in there and looked like we might actually give it a go. It was just the refusal to play the obvious ball, and I don't understand this. Let's just play it everywhere but in the box. It doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you can fully judge Juric on this game and on the results so far, because at the end of the day, Brighton are just a better team than us. And I know we've said that a lot this season, but they're where they are in the table for a reason, and we're where we are in the table for a reason. But the midfield looked more solid than last week. The defence looked as good as it could, and we were dealt the hand we were dealt with. We had to bring on Armel Bella-Kotchap for Bednarek, who hasn't played a Premier League game in 500 days. So I don't know if you can put the blame entirely on him, even though there are some baffling decisions, because it really, at this point, it was the expected outcome anyway. So
I think there's increasingly a movement now looking upwards, and it's actually started in the mainstream media at times as well, looking more at Sports Republic, and I think they are trying to do things that are right for the club. But I just think, and hopefully Spores changes this, Johannes Spores, but it just seems very knee-jerk, everything that they do with no forward planning. They've essentially gone from one stubborn manager that sticks to a philosophy to another stubborn manager that sticks to a different philosophy. And there are plenty of other managers out there that, I think Thomas Frank said it, like, I don't have a philosophy or a system. I adapt to what we have and what we need to play against. And we just don't seem to be able to do that. And it maybe this man-for-man defensive system worked in Italy, but Italian football is very, very different to the Premier League. And the Premier League is a lot about athletic forwards, quick transitions, and essentially things that probably are the complete antithesis or opposite of man-for-man football. Because if one person gets it wrong, you're in trouble. And I know he sort of said as much himself this week. He said, maybe we don't have the players to do it. But why then did Sports Republic choose him if he would have known that? It's just bizarre.
It really is, and there's a lot of things I want to discuss, and we'll take a quick break, and I guess we'll have a further discussion about all of these points, and actually, I guess, talk about what the result means going forward. But first of all, here is a message from our partners at Bioniq.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now. Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq.
We are back after some, as always, good fun technical glitches. You won't notice this if we do the post-pod correctly, but it's always fun to tell you that this is done live in a way. So yeah, coming back to some of those points, I kind of agree with what both of you say. I agree that it's harsh to judge him on what we've seen so far, but the problem is that he needs to be very aware that when he makes really weird decisions like he's done recently and odd tactical choices and tries to say that he's trying to win every game and then just says, yeah, we are really bad, and then has public spats with the players that, at this point you are going to have people that start questioning, well, we've just got rid of one person that's bad for another. And I'm aware, like, the problem ultimately is going to be the players. If he had an entirely different squad, maybe it's a different outcome. Yeah, if he had everybody fit yesterday, maybe it was, or Saturday, sorry, maybe it's a different outcome. But also, I'm in full agreement with Oscar that he was a knee-jerk reaction decision, right? We know for a fact they didn't have a short list of managers after Russell Martin. They said as much. They called up the first guy they had in their phone who they liked and they knew, which was Juric, and he was available after getting laid off from Roma, and he came in, and it was fun to see something different from Russell Martin for the first maybe one or two games. And whilst the results didn't come, the win we had against Ipswich was really, really hard won. But it does kind of feel like he's floundering because the players it doesn't help that the players keep actively coming out and saying, we really miss our best mate, Russell Martin. It's like, all right, guys.
Does it help that he comes out in the post-match press conference and says, no, the players aren't good enough for the system I want to play?
Yeah, that is the other thing. But then what you do is you change the system. You don't have to have that conversation. So there's lots of things, and I don't really rate his man management, which was one of the things we kind of said was good about Russell Martin. But then the flip side of that is that some of the players that have become good under him are not as good, when they were under Russell Martin. Like, we didn't see Sulemana. Tupou never really got a game. He got a cameo appearance at best. Joe Aribo's been a lot better under Juric. Ugo Chukwi's been a lot better under Juric. But at the same time, like, what are we even rating the scale of good at now? You said, Greg, that it was an all right game. And you're right. Like, are all right now, I think I even text something you words to the effect of, like, are all right now? It's like, oh, well, at least it wasn't 5.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm not really surprised that people are finding it harrowing to go to. And I think you're seeing people start to turn and realizing, well, if it's not the manager, it's the owners, and the owners are going to have to do something about it. And as you pointed out, they've got Spores in to hopefully make the difference with recruitment, because a lot of it is going to be recruitment. But then it's kind of surely also chopping and changing who is coaching the players on almost daily basis isn't helping either. Because I say daily basis, chopping and changes the coaches, and it doesn't feel like we've gone from having a really disgustingly rigid philosophy to almost kind of, I don't think they know what they're doing, and I don't think there's as much desire in fight as most of them. You can see the players that do have it. The players that I will point out are, Fernandez for sure, Ramsdale another. Suleiman has been very sort of has been reborn, but there are still elements of his game that I think Greg's talked about before, where sometimes you're just like, just chase the ball. What are you doing? Walker Peters, Wellington's been a nice surprise, but like just in general, the whole thing just isn't clicking, and it doesn't seem to feel like it's working. I don't really know what the solution's going to be.
No, it seems as well, like, as you say, it's almost like panicking from one disaster to another. We've gone from Ralph, counter pressing 4-4-2, not 4-4-2, but Red Bull style against the ball football. No, we don't want to do that anymore. We're going to go Nathan Jones. We're going to go direct, smash, grab, whatever we can do. Oh no, okay, we're going to change now. Now we're going to go to possession only. Let's keep the ball. Man City style of football, lovely. Oh no, that's not worked. Okay, let's go man for man. Like, it's almost like, again, it's that lack of future planning. And I appreciate it doesn't help them that every time we get a good member of staff, they get poached by a higher club. That really doesn't help, in terms of future planning. But at the same time, again, that's why you've got the famous black box to replace them soon after. That's something we were famous for 2-3 years ago, and now it's probably something that is completely to our detriment because we're not thinking ahead. And I also think Simon Rusk's got to be looking at it thinking, do you know what? I've done a pretty good job there. I think they've just brought him into the first team staff.
Yeah, he's first team coach now. He's changed.
I appreciate last time we did that and we took a chance on Sellers because he got a couple of good results as a manager bounce. But let's be honest, we'd take a couple of those good results now.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, we're almost at the point of the season, in my opinion, where chuck the kids on anyway. What's the point otherwise? If he's got this famous with the under-21s, start getting their way into the first team, getting some Premier League games. It doesn't matter. We're getting battered anyway.
I was talking about put on Joaquin, put on Victor, put on these sort of new signings, and but then at the same time, do you really want to poison these players with? Imagine coming on at this point during the season, like Tyler Dibling's he's fine regardless, right? He either gets a big money move, which will set him up probably, and then he might end up doing what some of the Southampton players do, which is fall to the wayside, or like do a Jimmy J Morgan, go to Chelsea and then get sent out on loan to League One rather than break through to the first team, or he stays and he does really, really well in the Championship. But then some of these other players that if they're not ready to take that step, then you end up doing is putting them into this absolute pit of negativity. And I think some of the players there now, what do you do? It's just like it's really hard to pinpoint what is broken. Is it an individual person? Well, we could say it's individual errors, but it's been so many individual errors across the team. It's not just one guy.
You've talked about whether we can pin it entirely on Juric, right? And I said that it's not necessarily fair to judge him, but I think it becomes crystal clear. We head into a game on Tuesday night against Chelsea. We're obviously going to be in a predicament because we're going to be without Harwood Bellis. I presume we're going to be without Jan Bednarek. And so we don't have proper defenders that are going to be good enough to play his system. And so now is the time to change. And so this is the judgment point, right? How much can he change it? What can we do? Can it be effective? This is what we're going to have to see. This is the do or die test, right?
Yeah, I think that's what you need to give the fans something. Right? Like I get that he's paid based off of results and stuff, but also like And I know that we have this reputation of being sort of a sort of flaccid fan base that isn't, oh, why are you not protesting and swinging banners around? And like, quite frankly, it's just like, I feel like some people just don't think it's worth the effort because it's so disheartening. But I think that they need to do something going forward. They need to, yes, something needs to change, even if it is, I don't know, an acceptance of where we are. Like, I think that when relegation is confirmed, because let's face it, we ain't staying up. When it's confirmed, I can't work out if that is a like sigh of relief, or and then maybe they'll play with a bit more freedom, or alternatively they'll down tools even more. Because at the moment, I don't know if I was in their position, I'd want to put 100% effort in. But at the same time, it's kind of what we'd expect. It's difficult. The whole situation is just something I don't think any of us fathomed being in, even when the last time we were relegated. And as I've talked about before, it's the experiencing the highs has made this low feel so much worse. But we'll talk about what we think the implications of the sort of game and what we think we can do going forward, and what maybe we'll see in changes after a word from our partners at Zencastr.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
And we're back. So, 4-0 loss to Brighton, well and truly beaten. Apparently, there's a story knocking around that Ruta also did a lead salute, which makes me laugh because I'm like, can't really, when you leave your club and then go on to a different club, mate. We did get relegated. We did win the playoff final, but like, I don't know why
Must
that's
have beaten
bothered me
3
so
times
much.
that season.
Yeah,
So,
it's just whatever.
wondering,
Like, okay, good for you. You got a good move to a better club. Oh, I say better. Uh, it was a difficult result to take, and the problem is that realistically, it doesn't really move the needle anywhere in our season. But as a reaction to sort of a game the week before that also wasn't great, it was a pretty poor reaction. And again, we can put that down to multiple different things. Where do we actually go from here? So, Greg, you seem to have the most sort of ideas around the fact that you think it's a do or die moment. Not in the case of our season, that's long gone. Not, but maybe potentially in the way that fans will view Juric if he is able to shift something to create a different game to both watch and maybe get, like, at the best probably a draw, which at the end of the day is a point more than we would have had the day before. What's your take?
Yeah, look, okay. I'm a bit baffled by why this has been the turning point in a lot of people's eyes of like, oh, this is ridiculous. And I know it was a 4-0 loss, but actually we didn't play. The performance wasn't as awful as we have seen from us in the past. And Brighton bought quality on off the bench and just overran us. It was that. As far as what we can do to take it forward, it needs to be something different. It needs to be something more defensively assured, which I'm aware is difficult with all of the defenders that we've got out. The approach just needs to not be plan A that we've seen. We've seen plan A with the back three and a man marking, and be it tall Paul as a target man up top or trying to put balls in behind. Well, supposedly trying to put balls in behind for Archer, not that anyone at any point actually tried. And that's not. We just need a change, something that looks to be a plan B, because otherwise we're just back at square one, where it's Einstein's definition of insanity. We're just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, and it's not going to happen. So
that, I think, is a good strapline for our season, to be honest, so far.
Apparently, regardless of manager. Like,
yeah.
and, and if you're the leadership, picking up the phone and just calling anyone you know who's got anything to do with football. Do you have any different opinions to that, Oscar? Or are you kind of in the same boat? We just need to see something different.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I mean, I don't think that we have I agree with. I mean, if the manager said it himself, there's no way he can't not change it now because he said we need to change something. So if he then goes and does the same thing again, and if that change is just okay, I'm not going to put Aribo at centre back, I'm going to put Smallbone at centre back, then that's not quite, I think, what people are expecting, but also something that wouldn't surprise me.
Oh,
You're right, though. That is something that
yeah.
it covers the definition of a change, but
Yeah.
not
Oh, it
how we'd
really would
understand the
cover the
word.
definition of
I don't,
insane as well.
again, and I know football can be quite cyclical, and it's, at the moment, because of Guardiola, it's all very possession heavy. Let's make sure we break the lines and
Might
this,
be
that, and the
changing
other.
now, though, eh?
But, well, who's against the idea? If you've got a 6'10" striker, who's against the idea of it was the old England manager, the 4-4 flipping two? Get two strikers up top, get balls into them. Okay, yeah, it's going a bit Nathan Jones and going old school, but
I take it.
Play Cameron Archer and fall on a matching
Can
together.
I?
exactly.
It's
Can I
not hard.
just? What it has to be said we should be very aware of, though, is that with all of this about change, there is a very real possibility of an equally disturbing future where we actually line up with a back four with Jack Stevens and Bella Kotchap as the central two defenders.
Yeah, but they're central defenders. Do you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah,
Play these players in their position.
it's
Like
not.
that.
It doesn't fill you with confidence, though, does it? No,
No,
you're
but
right.
the
What it would
problem.
be is Bella Kotchap and Brie.
Yeah, probably. And to be fair to Jack Stevens, like as much as he has his moments of madness, he's actually typically statistically one of our higher rated performers. I know that
Yeah.
stats don't necessarily mean everything, and he at least does care. He puts his heart on his sleeve, which isn't necessarily a positive thing because otherwise we could have kept Lyanko. But
I have to speak
bitterness is around that.
I have to speak in defence of Bella Kotchap as well, because actually, considering the position he was put in, I know he was at fault for probably 2 of the goals, but I don't think he had an awful game. He had the same problem that Les had at the start of the season, where he was prone to overcommitting himself. And once the Brighton players worked out that he was going to commit himself for the ball every time, they worked out that all they needed to do was just get to it first and flick it slightly and have a second man running on, because there was no one else helping him out. But other than that, he was pretty solid. Just slightly overcommitted, and that a lot of that is probably trying to do enough to justify that position that he's in.
Yeah.
So
if only we'd had the opportunity to give him a few minutes earlier in the season.
Yeah,
rather
if
than
only.
sort of
We could say
so
that about
insane.
we could say that about everything,
Yeah.
and I think that's what it is. Is that the gulf in quality between just our players and the rest of the Premier League is massive, and if you could make up for that, right, with spirit, and you've seen that in the past with sort of like Leicester's title charge, and even now with nobody thought that there would be a semi-viral song about Chris Wood in the 2024 to 2025 season. One that lives in my head rent free. If you've heard it, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, look up Chris Wood song. It's very funny. But like that, we don't have that either because of just the nature in which this season has taken us by storm. And I feel like our troubles have been completely unseen due to the fact that there are lots of other clubs. It's been a bad season for the Premier League for half of most of the Premier League clubs, right? Couple of little gems in there, like Forest doing really, really well. Liverpool supposedly just taking the title. But if you look at like what's happening around the state of the league, it's like, do you remember how 2 of these bottom half clubs that were going to be in the Super League, like as permanent members of the Super League? And I think that that's where, yeah, you're right. Like if you pick our top 11 players to have on the field and put them in the field right now, how many teams are we beating at the moment? And I don't know the answer to that question. And clearly,
maybe
apparently,
Leicester.
so far too. Right now, maybe Leicester. You're right, or it will be a wonderful like 0-0 draw. And I think that confidence, the gulf in quality, the disparity between just lots of stuff is all a culmination. It's like all of the worst possible points in the timeline have diverged right now, and
I think
we are dealing with it. We have to do it one way or another.
Realistically as well, I think in terms of the Premier League this year, it's been a fairly poor league. I mean, the titles, it's not even at the end of February. The title is more or less wrapped up. The relegation battle, the bottom three are more or less already relegated. Like, what is there left to play for? Let's see if Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest get in the Champions League or if they bottle it. That's basically all there is left. Or let's see if Man City maybe suddenly have a complete resurgence and win every game from now to the end of the season. But I don't see that. As much as I don't like Liverpool.
So yeah, it's just been one of those weird years. I agree wholeheartedly. It's been a weird year, and we are the biggest losers.
I do have a positive about the game to finish.
Here we go, mate. Come on, what's your positive? Let's finish on one of Greg's delusional bits of positivity because we need it. We need it to get through to the next game.
From all of the criticism we give throughout the season, I have to say a real positive take from yesterday. Thought the ref had a great game. No complaints at all. Probably the best refereeing I've seen in the Premier League.
Fair play.
I'm pretty sure I can find a WhatsApp message from you going, "How is that not a foul?"
Yeah, I think their third goal, there was a foul, but having watched it back, I mean, I was at the other end of the stadium, so... all told, I think he was pretty consistent across the board. Yeah.
Another positive to potentially end on. Last time in the Premier League, we got an important win that was the one that got Sellers' job, Chelsea away. So again, maybe it's written in the stars to happen again.
Maybe it is. And I think that would make them... I'm still upset about the flares going off, like in November or whatever it was. It's like you beat the bottom of the table side. What are you doing? Yeah, I guess where I'm at is it's been a hard season so far, and I completely understand everybody's point of disillusion. And I will refer people back to my episode of an ode to hope, and I'll refer to the positivity that Greg puts out all the time. I know that 80% of it sounds like it's insane, but 20% of it, there's something in there. And luckily, ever since Oscar's joined the podcast, we actually have a balanced viewpoint. somebody that can be both positive and critical, as opposed to just me being a bundle of sunshine, right, Greg? And you being insane when it consistently predicting a win every single week, mate. What's the definition of insanity again?
I'm going to tell you now that is not changing. I will still be predicting a win against Chelsea, as delusional as it is, because I don't have it in me not to.
Perfect. Well, we will be back with you tomorrow. I still think we need to figure out the schedule and what's going on. Usually, obviously, it'll be a Tactics Tuesday. We're going to have a game coming up. We might have a preview. We might have crossover. We just need to get our ducks in a row. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me both. If we had fun, do we like to? Yeah. I mean, this has been better than watching it. I'll put it that way.
That's it. Makes it all worth it.
So, so the socials are obviously over. We've got a Facebook, we have an X, we have a Blue Sky, we have an Instagram, we have a TikTok. We are a part of the Global Sports Podcast Network YouTube channel. All of our full episodes get posted to there. So if you fancy watching me stare off into the distance when an ad read takes place and completely disassociating with existence, that's always funny. At least that's what my family say. So, give us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know your comments. How bad's the season been? Is it the worst season of all time? Why did we start a daily podcast? Who knows? Right, love everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.